Taxpayers, you're back with MrTaxes.ca with special guests and our special co-host. Make sure and tune in weekly Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Central. Remember to subscribe and remember to smash, bash, and kick it in the you-know-what with that like button if you want more videos like this. There we are. We're live, I think.
Yeah, it looks good. I can see you, Jesse, and Rob as well.
All the way from Mexico. Where are you, Jess?
Currently Playa del Carmen, Mexico.
I'd take that. If you need someone to go down and kind of house it for you for the next 7 months, just let me know. I'm happy to sacrifice that if I must.
If you must, yeah.
If they'll let you out of Alberta.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's minus 25 here, so I'm thinking everyone's fleeing Alberta anyway now. So
yeah, okay. Well, welcome everybody. We got quite a few attendees on, mostly mortgage brokers today, because of our special guest, Ryan Spence from Filogix, a Finastra company. So, Ryan, what do you say you work for Filogix or Finastra or a combination?
Yeah, we've had so many name changes over the years. And I got one slide to kind of talk about that, but I figure as long as everyone remembers my name, the other bits are less important. Our marketing team is one that has gone through a few different name changes. So for those that have known us for a long time, we've gone from Filogix, a bunch of other stuff, and then back to Filogix again.
So it's full circle. Started out, what year did it all get going? I think Davis and Henderson back in the 1800s.
Yeah, well, yeah, D&H was ages and ages ago. So originally it was sort of LSS out of London, Ontario with Dave Chapman, mid-90s, started up what was the precursor to what is now Filogix. And over the years, it's been bought and sold and bought and sold. I think I've gone through 7 kind of corporate purchases over the years to get to where we are now. So the company started out very small local London, Ontario company, and now is part of this massive global fintech empire. $5 billion US market cap, I think, now with Finastra. Yeah, it's impressive, right? So it's fun to see how it's just been growing and growing over years. That's like that small company becomes such a big part of the entire Canadian mortgage ecosystem.
And you didn't start with them until at least the 20s or 30s, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, when I used to have a lot more hair, it was a lot thicker. I didn't have glasses at the time, but I think I started Filogix was 2020 was when I first started. Then I moved out to Calgary, where I am now, in kind of 2021, and I've been there ever since.
Awesome. So a little bit about our agenda. A lot of brokers are on here for the first time, and we bring these webinars to our affiliate channel. What is an affiliate channel? That's why Jesse's on. He's our partner here on the weekly webinar. So the affiliate channel is just a referral program we have at Mr. Taxes to reciprocate the generosity for people that do give us referrals. So we pay a 20% referral commission. So we have a lot of brokers that do work with us that get reciprocating mortgage referrals. So make sure and reach out to us. So what are you going to learn today? Well, you're going to learn a little bit about Filogix. So if you're in the mortgage channel and you haven't heard of Filogix, or you're new, Ryan's going to fill you in on all that. Our service desk, our relationship with Filogix is serving Filogix on the notice of assessment side or for tax documents. And we start processing those at 7 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're in Ontario or further east and you needing documents right away and you're on the Filogix platform, we start processing those 7 a.m. every day. And last night we worked till about 7 p.m. to catch up on the remaining orders. If there's ever an emergency, sometimes your file's closing or the bank's down your neck about it, make sure and reach out to us direct, because we can help get things moved up a little quicker. If it's after hours, try and reach out and we should be able to. So a little bit about our company. We reached out to you, Ryan, in 2008. We tried getting a hold of you, but your pager was turned off or something.
Listen, I got tablets and chalk at the outlines, right? That's where you're still hammering on the granite with a little hammer.
Yeah, so we had this idea for notices of assessments to service the broker industry back in 2008. It was actually Camilo Rodriguez here in BC. We were in a networking group together at Toastmasters, actually, and he asked if he could get some help with his tax return that year because he needed his assessments to get his own mortgage. And Camilo has been in the business a long time, owns his own independent brokerage, is a president of the BC Association, so those mortgages, but he needed his assessments, and he came into our office and we filed his return. I said, sorry, amigo, it's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks before you get them. And he said, what? My mortgage is renewing on Friday. I need those documents. And I said, sorry, compadre, it's going to be a while. But what I didn't tell him was I was actually printing them off. And then when he got them in his hand, he looked up at me and the light bulb went off at the same time. First words out of his mouth were, can I get these documents for my client? And subsequently, the answer is yes. So we turned it into a side service with our tax firm. And that's where we are today. So helping Filogix service the 500,000 mortgages that go through your platform every year. Is that number about right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we get about 500,000 submissions that go through each year. I think this year it was 130 billion, 140 billion worth of funded mortgages transacted. So it was a banner year for everybody. That's a lot of transactions and a lot of work, certainly for Rob and the team, Alicia and Paige specifically on getting those NOAs, the other tax docs that come with.
Yeah, so it's not just a notice of assessment. If you have a client applying for a mortgage that needs their, for example, right now, between now and beginning of April, a lot of lenders are going to be asking for the 2021 tax returns. We've been filing quite a few of those already, getting the assessments instantly online. So we're going to talk a little bit after Ryan's presentation here today about 5 different types of assessments. So how many different types? There's 5. You wouldn't think it, but each one has different information on it. Some have the date of birth, some have the filing code to file your own returns. Some of them have the address on, some don't. Some of them have the first line numbers on the assessment up to line 15,000 now. Some don't have numbers before that. So we're going to talk about the differences after Ryan's done. This was a little poll that we came up with last week. So this went out on the internet. Does CRA charge too much on tax? So, we need another LinkedIn poll, right? So yes, definitely yes, and hell yes, amen. 44.4% just on this fun little poll we did. So CRA does charge too much tax. One of our goals here at our firm with 25,000 plus clients is, our main goal is to reduce the amount of tax that people have to pay, and different strategies, incorporation, self-employment. There's the typical ones, RSP, TFSA, but there's nuances with all of them. And we just help mitigate the amount of tax our clients pay. Minimum tax, maximum wealth is our motto, and we try and do that with every client that comes through the door. So zeros don't add up except at the end of your paycheck someday. That is, you keep working and you're gonna get somewhere. So mortgage brokers out there that are new, that haven't got their first deal yet, it will come, because everybody needs to renew their mortgage. That's all I have to say about that. And Jesse's been in the affiliate marketing world. So affiliate marketing is just reselling and repurposing other people's content and products and services. So Jesse was #1 national leader in 3 different network marketing companies. So he knows a lot about marketing. That's why we're working with him. He runs our DOLLARTAXCLUB marketing funnel, and that is $1 for brokers out there that haven't seen it. It's $1 for clients to sign up. You can get a referral code. So if you're referring clients to the DOLLARTAXCLUB, we do a 10-year tax review. We give them discount on their tax returns. You as a broker get paid for it, and clients get service. That's all. It's a good lead generation for mortgage brokers. We have a program we put together for mortgage brokers, a small marketing program, Marketing Done For You, for those that work with us on a referral program. And Jesse's the one behind all that. So Ryan, special introduction. I'll just let you, it's up screen, but I'll let you, I know that I reached out back in 2008 to try for our services to Filogix, and finally it came full circle. So you have the floor, and I'll just stay on.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that, and good day to everybody. So my fantastic reels are looking airbrushed pictures on screen right now, which is good. And I think that one's that might have been from about 2008 as well. So it could be a good one going back in history. But I've been at Filogix for a bunch of years, a couple of decades now, seeing kind of the evolution of technology in the mortgage space. And as we increase the footprint of the Filogix ecosystem and all of the stuff that's contained within it, it's a pretty exciting time. So certainly right now, there's an incredible amount of technology options. There's things that are changing constantly. There's a lot of choice and a lot of kind of decision making that individual agents and brokerages are faced with. So what I want to do today is kind of show you a little bit of stuff, what the market looks like from a very high level point of view, and then kind of how we work through the ecosystem to talk a little bit about our expert software, and then kind of indicate how you can see those NOAs coming through our newest version. So it's a bit of an information source for you today, just to give you a framework of what's happening and a little bit of detail. And I'm going to go through a little bit of the Filogix world. So we're known as Filogix, a Finastra company. This is just a quick slide that talks about how big the market is. Like, where do we sit as a broker channel in the Canadian mortgage world? So the total market we have right now, we figure it's about $1.5 trillion, somewhere between $1.5, $1.7 trillion in mortgage credit that's outstanding in all of Canada. And typically this rotates in about a 4 to 5 year cycle. So there's usually about $400 billion in mortgages that transact annually. That's about $1.5 billion in sort of the retail market, right, which is your big 5 banks, your internal sales forces, institutions that are direct to consumer, or you're going into the branch to get that. The mortgage broker channel tends to have about, typically historically it's been like 37-38% of the overall market share. In certain areas it's higher. Newer buyers are more likely to use a broker. As you renew your mortgage several times, you may just stay with the institution. But ultimately that means that there's roughly $100 billion annually that transact in that brokerage channel. This year, the past one was a banner year. It was probably $130 billion with all the stuff that was happening. But on average, we see about $100 billion turnover. That increases a little bit year over year as the value of mortgages goes up. And then within the brokerage channel, we think of the private or the mixed mortgages to be about 10%, about $10 billion that change annually. So when I'm looking at a brokerage and a broker channel, there are literally hundreds of thousands of transactions that happen that cover $100 billion in mortgages or $120 billion in mortgages. So there's ample opportunity for you in the channel today, but there's also a huge amount of opportunity with transactions that don't fund today through that broker channel. But ultimately, this is kind of where we sit. The Filogix world really is in that broker side. So the kind of the bluish circle here is where most of our efforts lie. So over time, again, we've been around for a long time, and then Rob talked about sort of that full circle. Years and years ago, and even I'm kind of cutting and pasting a little bit here, but sort of the year 2000, there was a couple of mortgage companies that came together. They were transactional, they were technology companies, and they ultimately became what is known as Filogix. And over the years, we've built technology, we've increased the ecosystem, we've kind of brought that sophistication to the mortgage channel, going from what was hand delivering pieces of paper to faxes to computer content through phone lines at the time, then through web access, then through wireless access. And over time, we've grown and we've expanded. Filogix was bought by Davidson Henderson, who everyone knew at the time as a really big check manufacturer. And of course, everyone knows that the demand for checks has really, really exploded in the world. Of course, I'm being totally facetious there, but D&H recognized that there was a need for fintech, right? Needed to get away from physically making checks and some of their other products to being more engaged in technology. So D&H bought Filogix. Over time, an equity group called Vista Equity Partners bought D&H, bought Misys, combined them to make Finastra, this global fintech giant. And then Finastra, we started using the name Filogix again, because from 20 years ago, the broker community still referred to us as Filogix. The software was called Filogix. Everything was Filogix. So regardless of the name of the company, everyone just called us Filogix. So we figured, well, why fight the flow? We'll just go back to that. So now we're known as Filogix Finastra company. So between Filogix, D&H, Finastra, Filogix, again, as long as you know my name and people of our team, then that's the best name to know. So we have what's called the Filogix mortgage ecosystem, and it's this kind of spider web of interrelated tools, connections, connectivity that stretch between various segments of the industry. And in the majority of our stuff today, we look at, I'm just kind of using my mouse here, the lenders down through distribution into the MIC privates. This is kind of most of what we do. There are some other things that are kind of in some of the ancillary communications and support actions, but this is all of the connectivity we have with a whole bunch of stuff. So ultimately everything kind of pushes and pulls around the network, and ideally the information, once it arrives in the network, never has to be rekeyed somewhere else. It just gets moved around and everyone connects to the various pieces that they need throughout the life cycle of the transaction, whether I'm consumer to agent, agent to lender, lender to insurer, lender to ancillary source, agent to ancillary source, other point of sale, contact management, workflow, payroll. All of these things ultimately flow through our connectivity in that mortgage marketplace. So it's a bit like an iceberg. What you see on the surface, the expert software, or if you're a lender, the lending software, it's just that tip. Below is 90% of the mass, all of the connections that make up the mortgage marketplace in and of itself. And this is a bit of a representation of all the various flows that we see. And this is from an agent's point of view, because often you kind of get lost in who connects to what and where does this go and how do I do this? What choices do I make? What you can see on the left-hand side, there are a whole host of point of sale providers, people that do contact management, that might do deal ingestion, they might do all sorts of tools that you, the individual agent, use on a day-to-day basis, either as your brokerage or because your brokerage supplies it or because you use it as a third-party solution. Ultimately, it all connects in what we call our secure FX link, which is kind of that clearinghouse of data. All of the communication kind of goes back and forth through this link to the place it needs to go. If I'm an agent, do I need to send the file to a lender? Do I need to get an appraisal? Do I need to get tax services, for example, and those NOAs and T4 documents? Do I need to get a credit bureau? All these connectivity pieces come and go through our central clearinghouse, and everybody connects up to the marketplace. One of the Filogix kind of goals is to state that it's your business, you should run it your way. So the decisions that you make as an individual agent or as a brokerage, they should be what's best for you. So there's lots of choices out there. There's lots of niches. There's lots of ways you're going to act. There's lots of consumer needs. Whatever works best for you, there should be a way to accommodate that. So there's a couple things that have popped up recently, and this is probably a common for everybody, not just in the mortgage channel, but throughout the world in any vertical, in any industry. We look at, there's increasing complexity in the transaction itself. There's more stuff to know. There's more things to take care of. There's more things you have to consider. Data privacy and security has become ascendant in the last couple of years. In years past, people didn't care quite so much about their information, at least in Canada. So it was a bit more sort of lax, but more free form. But now people do care because that information can be global in moments. So we expect that consumers should have their personal information, their financial information protected and transmitted safely. And as an agent, as a brokerage, as an organization, they've got policies, or you should have policies and programs to ensure this is done, that you are being good stewards of the information that's being trusted to you. At the same time, brokerages are seeing increased regulatory need where they have to be able to demonstrate that they have these controls in place. They want to see what's happening. They want to know what's happening because ultimately they're responsible for reporting on what has. So in Ontario, we've got the annual information return. Equifax, of course, changed some of their policies in the last couple of years to ensure that consumers would also know what was happening. Where is my information going? Who's seeing it? What are they doing with it? And am I okay with that? So from a Filogix point of view, we're looking to strengthen that integrity, right? The ecosystem should allow that secure transmission of information, the confidence the consumer has is being done well, at the same time making the transaction, which is, again, increasingly complex, become a little bit more gamified, a bit less arduous for the consumer. And we're balancing that, of course, against the consumer has increasing expectations about that experience. They are looking for these very complex and potentially hard to understand transactions to be done with a minimum of effort, right? They don't understand the complexity. It doesn't necessarily seem as complex, but the experience should be good. And they are judging that experience against any possible experience they might have. I'm booking a flight on WestJet. I'm ordering something on Amazon. I'm using Skip the Dishes. Whatever that experience is, they're increasingly judging you and the mortgage transaction against all possible experiences. So aim to make it as efficient, as effective as it can be, so the consumer ultimately feels they had a good experience. That it's been a easy to their eyes flow to get the thing done that they wanted to have done. And again, at the agent's level, at the broker's level, certainly at the lender level, they're looking to say, how do we take out the cost of doing that? These increasingly complex transactions, these increasingly complex security and data privacy requirements are cost centers. It takes more effort for me to ensure that I'm doing things securely and effectively. So I also want that to be an efficient way. How do I do that cost takeout per transaction? How do I make my process become more effective, more efficient at the individual consumer level, at the brokerage, at the lender? And again, all that is within the framework of an increasingly complex transactional nature and increasingly high regulatory. So we're going to think about this from maybe the last 15 years. So 15 years ago, 2006, we were sort of launching Filogix Expert. It was just out. We converted from sort of older versions of software into this new web-based thing. The web was looking really cool at the time. And the transactional process was generally fairly simple. Right, the consumer would want a mortgage. You take an application, you pull a bureau, you'd send it off to a lender. There were relatively few products comparatively, relatively few lenders comparatively. The compliance and the payroll needs were a bit less. It was just less to consider. So it was a bit easier. There weren't as many tools as was needed compared to today. But over those years, right, we've seen the need for those transactions to have more touch points. There's more things I have to consider. There's more lenders, more products. There's more ways to do efficient transactions. So over the years, as we were bought by kind of D&H and then ultimately bought by Vista to become a Filogix, the Finastra company, we also started thinking about what's the next evolution of Filogix Expert software going to be? How do we keep moving pace with the industry? What innovations do we want to see? What do we need to do? Now, as we look at 2021, the Filogix Expert software is pretty old, right? And if you think of what other piece of software has been around for 15 or 18 years that you're still using in its kind of original form, there's probably very few. You've probably gone through 3 cars in that period of time. So we knew we had to modernize what Expert was. And then we thought, well, do we look around? Do we rebuild from scratch? Do we acquire something? Do we buy? Do we lease? Do we rent? We thought we're going to survey the entire market, not just sort of in Canada, but globally. That's a nice thing about being this global fintech. You've got lots of opportunities to see what's happening in other countries. We thought, right, the best way for us to do this is to acquire, right? We're going to look around, see what's best, because that gives us a good jump on making that transition. So a couple of years ago, there was a company, a software company called Mortgage. Then they became Door. And October sort of 2019 or 2020, sorry, Filogix bought Door. And we've renamed that to be Expert Pro. So you might know Mortgage, you might know Door, you might know Expert Pro. They're all the same thing. That is now branded as Expert Pro. And this is a far more robust tool. It gives modern tools for the modern mortgage broker. It takes what often are segregated individual tools that the agent might use and brings them all into one sort of all-encompassing platform where you can do lots of things from that central point rather than having to worry about moving information back and forth between different platforms, logging into different platforms, seeing some inefficiency in that data migration. So now in the Filogix Expert Pro world, we have a lot of stuff that happens, a lot of call outs to other services. Mr. Tax is, of course, being one when we look at acquiring tax documents from the system. And there's bank statements and e-signature. There's consumer portals, the ability to have applications ingested easily, to be able to share documents securely with the consumer, to have them as a consumer schedule appointments with you, to be able to integrate your email and calendars within the platform. So all of these now just become the new way of doing the mortgage, because the mortgage broker, the modern mortgage broker, needs these tools to be efficient, to be competitive, to be able to track and understand the increasingly complex transaction, but at the same time have that secure information and for the consumer to also know that information is being held securely. So I'm going to jump into the software in just a moment to kind of show you what this looks like. Before I do that, I'm just going to introduce quickly the account management team we've got. There's myself. I typically cover the East Coast and the West Coast. And then we have a couple account managers, Elton and Carly in Ontario. Elton, if you think of the Highway 400 East, that's Elton's territory. Carly, Highway 400 West. And then Élise Houdon in Quebec covers all of our broker community there. So for those across the country, if you see your local rep, their contact information is on the right-hand side. They're always happy to answer any questions. And at the very top of the page, and I think after your page, you're going to put this in the chat as well, is the finastercanada.com, the Filogix Expert landing page. This is just a nice spot to say, hey, here's what Expert Pro looks like. There's a video, there's a bit of a comparison, there's a how do I contact us. So if you ever have questions about what this looks like, that's a good spot to have some information. There's always more questions that are about you specifically, your broker specifically, that may not be kind of readily known in a general session, but we're always happy to chat to make sure you understand what it is, and also that kind of that migration rate. What happens when I've got this older piece of software, I want to move to this newer piece of software? How does that happen? What are those? So I'm going to flip my screen over, and I'm going to start looking at kind of a live demo of the software. I'll spend a few minutes doing that. Before I do that, just any quick questions that pop up.
Yeah, this is the part of the presentation I'm looking forward to, because we only account for 4.9 of your 5 billion, and I've never actually seen the back end of the software.
Perfect.
And we're only a small part of the giant cog, and thanks for getting our logo in there, Ryan. But the notice of assessment is a small piece, but it's an integral piece, because some loans can get held up for as little as $100 balance owing on somebody's account. And one of the things that we've discovered is that we can get those balances or amounts owing on clients' accounts erased instantly with a notice of objection in some cases. So just something to think in the back of your head. It's not just notices of assessment that we're supplying, or again with the credit bureaus, there's every part of that giant wheel has an integral part, and we all have nuances that we can bring to the table to help people get their mortgages approved.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is that increasingly complex ecosystem where you, the agent, may be faced with a wide range of potential clients as you're sourcing business, you're working through the applications. Everyone's story is different. Everyone's scenario has its own unique criteria. There are so many lenders and so many combinations of what could happen. There's literally tens of thousands of possible combinations, and it's going to be very hard as an individual agent to kind of keep those in your mind the whole time. So there's always services that you may need on a infrequent basis that are very useful when you do have it.
Pretty high-end client list. You got Johnny Walker and Donald Duck in there.
Yeah, that's right. I got John Wick too, just so you know. So don't know anybody. If you got a dog, make sure the dog's well safe, right? So
hey, take it away, man. Looking forward to this, Ryan.
All right, good stuff. So this is just the agent's view of it. I've logged into the system. You would log in with an email address and a password, and it takes you into a couple different choices, right? I'm going to show you the board. We've also a dashboard, but I'm going to talk about the board. And this is really, if you think about kind of what Trello used to be, I have defined my workflow, right? I've spent some time, and I think this is an important exercise for any agent, any brokerage as well, is to go through and say, what are the things that I think are important in this transaction? What are the key steps that I want to hit that brings my client from kind of initial ingestion, I first found that client, all the way through to I've funded a mortgage, and then I want to keep that client and agents, they may have very different processes depending on your niche of client. Maybe you only do refinances for cash flow purposes, or you do new construction loans, or it's new to Canada, or second mortgage, whatever that specialty is you have, your workflow may be a little bit different than my workflow. And our client boards allow you to define that, right? So in this case, I have half a dozen stages which I have decided are important for me as an agent. These are the things that I want to ensure my client goes through, the individual steps I take with them through the life cycle of the app. And I can make these different. I can add columns in here. I can change what these column headings are. I can create new boards and other boards that allow me to segregate or make that data more granular. I've got a pre-approval board, for example, but ultimately I'm deciding what is important for me and finding that process so that I can move my clients through it to ensure that they are getting the kind of the best experience that they also efficient for myself. So as I move my client through the life cycle of the application, I'm just moving my little tags that say great. In this case, Sung, the test file, I've now contacted Sung. I'm moving that to the interview schedule. And this just keeps track of what's happening in the file. Where is this person through the life cycle? I might have individual actions that I have to do. I might need specific things to happen at that time or when I make that client move. I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, kind of show you, but there are automations that I can make so that when I or someone on my team moves that client's tile from first contact to interview scheduled or over to submit to lender, then things can happen automatically. I can email my client and say, hey, we've submitted the file. You'll hear from us in 24 hours or 48 hours. I might send an automation to my assistant that says, here's some activities you have to do because the client has progressed to this particular level. I might, at a certain point, notify the lawyer that I work with that this is going to be a new client, expect them to come. It's just the action of me moving my client from column to column, from step to step in the transaction can trigger lots of automations, lots of things that go out to the world that tell somebody some piece of information that's timely, important, and often has a call to action. So I don't have to remember to do things. I've set up the system. As I make these actions, it does it for me, whether I'm on my phone and dragging it around or on my laptop. As I go through these individual applications, I'm just going to touch base on what it looks like so you can see some parts of it. I've got all sorts of videos. There's all sorts of things that you can see that are much more specific. So I'm going to spend about 10 minutes, maybe 50 minutes tops, just kind of going through some very high level items. So I have my client. So I've got Jane Smith as an example, and Jane's at the point where I've submitted the file to the lender, but I may want to see a bit more about what Jane is. In the old world of Expert, we had really defined the subject property as the unique identifier for a particular transaction. But I might have a client that has many transactions, and I have a life with them, right? I've done work with them over many years or months. I want to return information. Now in the Expert Pro world, we really think about Jane as the person and what's happened with Jane. So I have some information about Jane. I have applications I've done with her. I see what sort of her total value is to me. I have actions I've had, notes that I might have, emails I've exchanged with her, automations that might fire. Give me the history of who my Jane is, right? What have I done over time? I can see that I've got checklists. I can do automations. I can synchronize my email and my email calendar in the system so that if I'm emailing from the Pro World or emailing from my Gmail account or my Outlook account, then those things synchronize and keep everything in one spot. In this case, I haven't emailed Jane apparently, but should I have emailed Jane, I would have seen all those linked emails showing me. My focus today is really going to be on the application because the tool Expert Pro has lots of tools to it, but most of the time, most agents focuses on how do I complete this transaction successfully? How do I get paid? How do I do the things that makes my client successful and then me successful as a result? So I can go into an application. And again, this is fairly straightforward, right? If I've gone through any application for any credit product in the past, it's just asking questions of the client they're giving you. So the screens may look a little bit different than old Expert, but it's the same type of thing. A phone number and a social insurance number, regardless of what the application looks like, are still a phone number and a social insurance number. I can go through the application and I can fill out all the details. I can get it ready. I can pull the credit bureau. I can submit the file to the lender. I'm not going to focus on that today. That's just kind of the basic steps. And I think everyone's probably fairly familiar with that. Certainly, if you're not specifically, maybe you're a very brand new agent, we do run training sessions, obviously, that can walk through this in a more specific. But I did want to focus a little bit on that interaction between the consumer and the agent, and then how the agent can help the consumer and help themselves be a bit more efficient, particularly in the area of document collection, which is by far the most painful point of the transaction. And we've done a survey, this is a couple of years ago now, but it was, what is literally the painful point? What is the pain points? And documentation was the number one pain point for 70% of the consumers who responded. It was by far, it was triple whatever else you might see for any other pain point. So documentation becomes an important. As I, the agent, have reached out to the client, I've met them on the golf course, they've sent a web application, I've acquired the client somehow, I want to interact with them, I want to collect things from them. So I have some choices. I have what we call actions, where I can request the client do things. And again, I'm always going to talk about what I expect the client's behavior to be, and is it reasonable for me to expect the client to be able to achieve that behavior? And I typically use my brother-in-law and my father-in-law as the example. If I ask my brother-in-law to send me a PDF of his pay stub, I'll have that within a minute or two. It'll be a nice formatted PDF. It'll be emailed to me. It'll be grand. If I ask my father-in-law to do that same thing, it'll be far more efficient for me to drive to his house with my phone, take a picture of that pay stub, and send it to myself. So I'm always thinking about what behavior can I expect from the client? Is it reasonable for me to expect they be able to achieve that? So you're always going to set that expectation and work accordingly. But if I've got that expectation, I feel this is a good thing, I have a couple choices. So in my consumer interaction, I have the capacity to have my client just fill in a web application, give me some information, but I can also have them prompted to give me more information or specific information. So as I work through my application, I'm going to do an action. And you can see there's a few things here. I can create packages, which are me asking the consumer for something. I can create e-signatures. I can request an NOA. So this is where, as you work with Mr. Taxes, or we work with Mr. Taxes, if I need an NOA in the T4 slips and those tax documents, I can simply create a request for an NOA. It allows me to continue on. I generate an easy form that the client can e-sign. It will be sent through the system that ultimately Robert and the team at Mr. Taxes will be able to activate and say, great, I've received permission from the consumer. I can go get the tax documents. The consumer simply signs in the appropriate spot. I won't actually send this one out today. My John Smith one is going to go nowhere. But the consumer simply receives that e-signature form. They sign it back through the platform. The act of pulling that NOA, those T4 slips, those tax documents comes to Robert and his team. They fulfill that request, again, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the week, special needs on weekends type thing. And within about a half hour, you receive that tax documentation inside the documents component of the application.
And Ryan, just to elaborate on that, our service commitment with Filogix is 30-minute turnaround. So during those business hours, it is 30-minute turnaround. And the documents that we do retrieve, not only the notice of assessment, but the proof of income, we're going to go over that a little bit when you're done your your presentation here on the software, but also all of the income slips from previous 2 years. Whereas some of the, competing services, they'll just offer T4s and they'll charge extra for CPP or OAS slips, etc., T4As. But that's just part of the package that we provide with your Filogix subscription.
Yeah,
all included.
Yeah, which is highly valuable, right? So this is where I, as an agent, think if my client is struggling to produce something, which truly could be hard for them to get, they don't have these tax documents, or the pain for me to get it. How do I reduce the pain of that consumer? If I can say, I'll do that for you, I can get that quickly. So again, this is the Camilo Rodriguez story. Geez, I just got these documents that if I ask my client for, that may take them days or got longer to find them and get them, I can have them in my hand in a half hour. Again, the consumer has just seen this as an effortless approach. They've signed a document, you've done the work. Well, I guess Robert's actually done the work, but you've got the result. And then you have this information in hand quickly and efficiently, and again, to the satisfaction of the consumer.
That's right. You and me, Ryan, do all the heavy lifting, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to take any credit for any of that, but some of the things that we do look at, when we log into the client's account with CRA, there's a 30-day expiry on that access. We actually put the same day next month expiry, so we don't maintain continuous access. But within those 30 days, if the lender comes back and asks for something, maybe a client's return is being reassessed, you don't want anything to happen to your deal, do you? As a broker, you don't want those surprises coming back from the lender saying, well, we don't just need the notice of assessment, we need the proof of income statement. Or they had, stated income returns. Can you get copies of those returns? We can get those turned around same day as well.
Yeah. Again, this is very very important, is that it is fast and efficient. And it's how, and as an agent, I'm always judging what is the effort that I have to expend to get the result I'm looking for. If I have to constantly chase the client, if I have to spend time viewing it, asking, or my assistant has to do the same thing, that's costing me dollars, right? If I have to spend 15 minutes chasing a document, that's 15 minutes that I can't spend chasing another transaction or fulfilling the transaction. As an individual agent, I'm sure everyone's gone through and kind of worked out their business plans, and they thought, how much do I have to earn per hour in order to fulfill the goal I've got for my annual revenue target? And once you start thinking about breaking that revenue target down to an hourly rate, you start thinking about, well, how much of portion of an hour is it costing me to follow up with this thing or to chase this thing around? Could I use that in a more effective manner? So we're always thinking about what's the return of the investment on my time, which is the one thing people tend not to quantify well, because it in many people's mind, time is hard to quantify at a dollar figure. Once you've done that and you realize, yeah, that maybe cost me $50 or $80 to chase that client, is that worth my time? But I want to talk about the consumer experience, right? So I've got an NOA, I might have got bank statements. I also might want to get the consumer to send me other documents. And we talked about security and efficiency in the transaction. So let's just say that I need some documents from my client, and I've specified what they are. I can put descriptions in. I just need them to get them to me. Historically, it's been, just email me your document, which isn't necessarily the best way to do it, right? You don't want to be encouraging your client to send you their personal or financial information, that confidential information, over open, unsecured internet. You do want to have that level of security, and certainly consumers are increasingly looking for that level of security. So I can create an action that says, I'm going to request a package. I'm going to have my choices, which are I can have my client type in information if I need them to fill in more details about the application, or I can request documents, or I can request bank statements, right? So if my client has bank statements and they're hard to get, or they don't really understand how to get them and not doing them well, again, I can request that they do some actions that easily produce the bank statements from the institutions that they have in a format that is useful to the lender, and it does that easily. But in the moment, I'm just going to request documents. I'm going to send my client a list. Here's all the documents that I need. I'm going to have a template that I can automatically apply that says, here's what I want you to do. And ultimately, the client gets an email that says, and again, you'll have your logo and your branding up here. I need you to do these things. I need you to send me these documents. Here's what the document is, and here's why I need it. I have a call to action, right? I need you to click here to do the thing that I want you to do. And again, my contact info at the bottom. So if I send the email, off it goes to the consumer. They receive this. They've been told instructions. They've given explanation, and they've got that call to action. On their end, when they click that, upload documents, they're going to be able to log into their own portal. right? So this is a spot where the consumer has control over their information and they can hold it securely. So whether I'm asking them to fill out information about the application, who they are, what they own, what they owe, or I'm asking them to produce documents, ultimately this is them having the capacity for upload of document, drag and drop, take a picture of my phone, send it over, so that the documents that I'm asking for are uploaded by the consumer. And when they're uploaded by the consumer, they appear back in my application as well, so I can review and see them. Again, effortless, sort of seamless. Consumer can do it. They can do it securely. They can do it efficiently, which is ultimately the goal of what we're looking for here, right? That increasingly complex transaction being made simple and as effortless as possible for the consumer. So they have to put in the minimum amount of work to get the maximum reward. And of course, you're looking to do the same thing. What's the minimum amount of work that you can do to get this ultimately funded transaction, which, you know, in the vast majority of cases is worth thousands of dollars of commission revenue for you? How to make that much more effective and much more efficient. So as I work through the transaction, I complete it, I send the file to the lender, I get the response, I am able to do the usual things that I would do with my consumers and work through the application lifecycle. I mentioned automations a little bit earlier on. So as I'm moving people from the board, from column to column, I have a lot of choices that I can do. So I can create automations and I can say, if I do things, if I move this tab from column A to column B, do these actions. So one, for example, on a board, if I move a tile to submit to lender, then I create a checklist with the following actions, right? So these are the things I need to do at this stage. At the same time, I've got an email that says when I move this client's tile to that same status, I'm going to email the client and say, hey, your file's been submitted. Here's information. Here's things to expect. Here's what's happening with your transaction. I'm giving you some information. I'm potentially giving you a call to action as well. As I create these automations, and these can be very sophisticated automations on a very granular board, I can be very, very clear with my client about what they should expect, what information they get, when they get it, and how they get it. Simultaneously, I can ensure my team is operating well by ensuring that they are given specific instructions at a particular time for a particular client that becomes easy for them to follow through. When there's tens of thousands of products out there and there's tons and tons of possible combinations of scenarios and what can happen with the client and what are they doing today and what's happening tomorrow, defining your process well, creating those boards that are easy to follow through and easy to draw my clients through, creating the automations that allow that information to flow out of the system sort of in that automated, automatic manner can be highly convenient. And again, I'm always thinking about what's my return on investment? How much time do I spend writing this email and sending it to a client, even remembering to write the email to send to the client versus having the system do it for me? It's kind of worth some effort and some consideration. So I'm going to pause here because I know, Robert, you've got some stuff and Jesse may have been able to connect again to have a quick chat, but
little added incentive. We're going to be giving away a free tax return because it is tax season. We're giving away a couple today. But if you're not on Filogix and you sign up today for the subscription, Ryan will let us know, and we'll put all those names in the hat for a free tax return for 2021. And or you can use that, and if you have your own accountant, fine. We tell everybody you can use other accountants, but when you want to get it right, come to us. But if you want to pass that off, if you are using another account and you're happy with their service, if you want to pass it off to the client as a gift, feel free to do that. So, you know, if there was ever an incentive to give Filogix a trial run, this is it. It's our paid public service announcement for today.
Perfect. Yeah, no, definitely appreciate certainly the work that the Robert team does on getting the tax returns back to agents has been extraordinary. We do, I don't know how many thousands we do on a regular basis. It's a huge number, and it's just becoming more common, right? It becomes a little bit easier for the consumer to understand, and certainly as you as an agent work through it, your ability to communicate the benefit to the consumer helps quite a bit as well.
Yeah, and it's constant improvement. Even on the order process for the NOAs, we've refined it to, you know, have confirmation links. We get the broker's contact info and they have our contact info so they can reach back if there are additional documents to get done. So we're only a small part of the big wheel there at Filogix, and we're just happy to be a part of it.
Perfect. All right. We'll say if there's anything that pops up as a question, shoot it out or contact one of us directly. You'll get all the contact information via the web link after the session is done via recording. So for me, that's all my part. Unfortunately, I have to drop off, but I know Jesse, want to make sure Jesse has some opportunity to get back into a fine Mexican internet access here. So I will drop off, and Jesse, you take over. And again, Robert, any questions that pop up, anyone that wants to have a chat outside of this, let me know their details, and happy to do so.
Excellent. Thanks a million for coming on, Ryan.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. One of the things that I really like about what you guys have going on there is I'm a huge fan of automation and putting technology to work for you so that you don't have to work as hard. And I mean, that's kind of what I gathered out of this presentation, was that's exactly what this is.
Well, Filogix has evolved right back from the day when Davis and Henderson, the company they purchased that had the inroads into all the banks and the lenders, they were printing checks. They were the first ones to come up with magnetic recognition on checks. And to this day, I still do not bank with TD, even though TD has some of the best lending products and some of the best bank services. Do you remember, Jesse, the old passports that they had for putting into the bank machine to get your bank balance printed on? Put your bank book in and it would spit it back out. It would print. You could hear the printer going on. Well, it ate my bank book. It was a Friday night. This is 30 plus years ago. I was going out and needed some money, and it ate my bank book, and I was kicking the machine, throwing snowballs at it, and then I gave up, went out. Friends loaned me some money for the weekend. Monday, I went into the bank and I said, yeah, the bloody machine ate my bank book. And the lady says, oh, hold on a minute. The manager wants to have a chat with you. So I go into the office and he sits me down in front of a TV screen and turns on the TV monitor, me kicking the machine.
That's funny.
So I'm a little bit embarrassed to go back to TD still. So just up, go ahead.
They probably have that just playing on replay in all of their branches.
You can probably find it on the internet somewhere. So here is for the mortgage brokers that are still on. Here's I'm going to say 6 different types of notice of assessment. You get the notice of assessment delivered in 4 different ways. And then there's the status of return and a proof of income. Those 2 at the bottom could be delivered either by mail from CRA or acquired by us online. So you can request those for your clients. But lenders now are asking for different versions. There's no standard one version. So this is just a simple, you can take a screenshot, you can grab it on the replay, but we've listed what each type of assessment includes. Some include the date of birth, some don't. Some have the access code for filing, some don't. Some have the address, some have the marital status, etc. So depending on what the lender is asking for, we're able to acquire any of these assessment documents for you. Again, we just provide the notice of assessment and proof of income because those 2 cover the gambit of all the information requested. But if there is another version that the lender is asking for, they're probably trying to put an extra burden of proof on your clients, or an extra hurdle for your clients to, get approved for the mortgage. But we know that's what mortgage brokers do. And again, we're here to help with that. Jumping back just to the technology side, the size of Finastra Global, the 3rd largest tech company in the world, fintech company in the world. What have you seen, the value in technology over the past 3 or 4 years? Is this a valuable service? Of course, we're going to, push Filogix and, push brokers to give it a shot. But what does technology save you in dollars and cents?
Oh, man, when you put technology to work, and the right technology, and it saves time, like Ryan was talking about earlier, it's not just those 15-minute intervals here and chasing this over here. There's a lot more that goes into it. This could replace employees, this could replace assistants. Not that we want to eliminate jobs or anything, but when it comes down to it, if you can accomplish the same mission using this sort of technology and using kind of like a pipeline management system is kind of what I gathered this does also, above and beyond all the other amazing components that it has included. But pipeline management is huge when you're dealing in an industry like this, specifically, where you need to make sure that your clients are moving forward. They're going through the steps, right? And anything that you can do to eliminate the work, just imagine even typing emails. He was talking about you can just move things around and have emails sent out automatically. Just how much time does that save you in just manually typing emails, or even going to your notes and copy and pasting emails? To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm a huge fan of technology. I'm a huge fan of automation and everything, and also customer experience, which is huge as well. When it comes down to it, I specialize in helping build systems that create a better customer customer experience, because that's ultimately, we need to make sure that the clients are happy. If the clients aren't happy, they're going to go find someone that will make them happy. So, I mean, it's so massive.
It is. And for those brokers that are out there hunting for clients' notice of assessment, trying to get through CRA, that's what we bring to the table with Filogix. On our affiliate program, Jesse's big on technology. He's the one who, in essence, helped recreate and rebrand our Dollar Tax Club affiliate program. So this is for brokers. We are going to give away another free tax return. So those who sign up for the Filogix trial that are not a member of Filogix already, but those who want to get on our affiliate program, we give out 20% referrals. Go to that link, dollartaxclub.ca/affiliates. Anybody signing up before Friday, we're going to give you till Friday to sign up. We'll put your hat in the draw for a free tax return as well. So that's our affiliate program. We pay out 20% referral fees. We're allowed to in the tax industry. Unfortunately, in the mortgage industry, if you pay out more than $1,000. So that's one way we can reciprocate and give back to the mortgage community. Future events, again, we're every Wednesday. We're looking at bringing this mortgage webinar to you the first Wednesday of every month, possibly the first Monday. We'll come up with some details and let you know. But for your clients, we have a mortgage club. For those who are on our affiliate program, we will help create branded materials for you so you can go out and market the clients, especially now during tax season, to sign up to use our services. And with that, they would get a free mortgage review. So how does that sound for mortgage brokers? You know, if anybody's interested, put your comments in the chat area, and we'll make sure and reach back to you if you have more questions. We are running a bit short on time, so we'll just speed this up. So free tax returns, anybody on the webinar today is going in the hat for a free draw. You can't win twice. International rules, you have to be here. Those who sign up for the Filogix and those who sign up for our affiliate program. And again, if you win the free tax return and you're already using an account you're happy with, great. You can use that to re-gift to a client or use it as a draw to bring in some new clients. So that's what Jesse does. He does marketing. And with every Dollar Tax Club membership for clients that do sign up, we offer a 12-year tax review. A lot of people are advertising 10 years, but I believe CRA is adding an extra year. Each calendar flips to the new year, CRA is adding. So right now it's going back 12 years that we can review for clients, 100% complimentary. So if any of your clients are looking for a free tax review, if we do any services for them in the future, you as a broker get paid 20%. That's our offer. How's that industry standards, Jesse? 20% is the industry standard. Everybody's going to say they want more, of course. But we could always give less. We could always give less.
Everyone always wants more. But I mean, just think about that for a second. The tax review, just think about how happy one of your clients could be. Now, this could be something you could use with your prior clients. This could be something you use to gain more clients. But just imagine how happy they would be if you set them up with a tax review. They find out they got some money coming back to them. They're going to be over the moon excited, and you're going to be the one that they're going to praise for that. So
and they call that a hook. They call that a hook, right? That's a lead generation for you as mortgage brokers. That's where Jesse specializes in. We specialize in tax. Jesse specializes in marketing, affiliate marketing, etc., setting up marketing funnels. That's our little tax joke for the week. There's angels in there, so I'm going to flip the screen real quick before we combust into flames. And we went through the questions with Ryan. So I think that's a wrap for this week. Pretty big company, Filogix and Finastra. I didn't realize the magnitude and the amount of services they offer outside just the application platform.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see. I like learning about that kind of stuff.